Well, I've been looking forward to this all morning. Hugh Bonneville, welcome to the Coast Studio.
Thank you very much, Brian. Lovely to be here.
A few minutes ago, I had a clip of you as the bumbling, what was it, out of Notting Hill? Bernie. And that little piece about how much you earn. Great
that
story.
That was quite a memorable day because when I got the script, when I asked her how much she earned and how difficult acting was as a profession, etc., and her answer in the first draft of the script was $10 million, and then in the rehearsals it was changed to $12 million, and on the third take of her close-up, which was the one that's in the movie, she suddenly said $15 million. And when we finished the scene, I said, well, out of interest, why did you suddenly change it? And she said, I'm kind of tired of lowballing. And a week later, it was announced she was getting $20 million for Erin Brockovich. So, different world, different times. I had cheekbones then.
Back then, you were sort of renowned for playing sort of bumbling English people, really, weren't you? More so than, Downton Abbey now.
Well, I guess so. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit slow on the uptake, just generally. So I suit those roles quite well, I suppose.
Well, let's talk about Downton Abbey. What's it like working first off at Highclere Castle, which is just a wonderful, wonderful set?
It's magical. Every time, we've been filming there on and off for 3 years now, and every time we come into the driveway and the parkland, which was landscaped by Capability Brown, you get these sort of ebbs and flows of the landscape, and you get glimpses of the castle as you approach. It's tantalising, and then suddenly you would turn one corner and there it is, perched on the hill with this sort of dominant form. And, I get butterflies every single time, because it's just beautiful. It's a huge privilege to film in somewhere as beautiful as that.
And it's somebody's private residence, really, isn't it? It belongs to Lord and Lady Carnarvon, doesn't it?
Yes, it's been in the Carnarvon family for generations. Carnarvon, who funded was behind the Tutankhamun expedition of Howard Carter, so it's got all that mystique and the wonderful Egyptology, etc. And apparently Lady Carnarvon has, even over the last 10 years, found boxes in the attic with sort of old amulets and bits that didn't really sort of get sorted out after the expedition. So it's steeped in history, obviously, and it's this the house itself, the castle itself, was designed by Barry, who designed the Houses of Parliament. So it's got that Victorian Christmas cake feel to it. It's very different to other shows, the look of other period dramas, and that was something that Julian Fellows was very keen to find, so that it didn't look just like every other, or a lot of other period dramas. And they auditioned loads of houses all over the country.
Yeah, I was wondering.
But he'd always had Highclere in mind, particularly, and I think this is crucial to the show, particularly because it feels like a home, not like a huge rambling castle, where you can get lost in different wings. The rooms that you see in the show are the principal rooms of the house. There are a few others on the ground floor round the back, but these are the main living rooms of the house. So everything happens within a fairly confined, compact space. Same with the bedrooms. It goes up and up, but it's there's no question it's a big house. It's got 50 odd bedrooms, a lot of which have not been used for decades. But it does have a familial feel to it, and I think that's key to the show.
And you also use outside, because I believe in the series coming up on Prime shortly, there's a cricket match involved where you had to go and find the period costumes because the outline of the boxer shorts, for instance, showed through the pants. I read that story somewhere.
Yeah, there was a bit of I think it was a slightly made-up story about us having to wear strange pants. But no, finding traditional cricket gear was an important factor. I'm a Luddite in that regard. I'm not into all these pyjamas that cricketers wear nowadays. I love the old flannels, which of course are a nightmare to launder, and if you get a grass stain on, it's there for life. But it was really lovely, putting on beautiful brushed cotton cricket shirts with that cream colour, and then the old sorts of flannels. And we had a wonderful 3 days. We've had a miserable spring and summer in the UK weather-wise, and twice we had to postpone this particular sequence because we needed 3 clear days to shoot it, and we wanted as much, obviously, rain-free time as we could, and we were so blessed we found a window and got 3 days of sunshine either side of torrential rain. So it's important because it's towards the end of the series, and it's a summer feel. and the quintessential British village green cricket match. And I think it's paid off.
Did the Earl front up? Did he, bowl or bat?
No, the Earl is a wicketkeeper, which I think
really?
is rather symbolic.
And this new series we're looking forward to in New Zealand, Shirley MacLaine makes an appearance. So Maggie Smith, Shirley MacLaine together. I mean, that's an amazing lineup for a start off, isn't it, to work alongside them?
Well, it wasn't just awesome; it was all a lot. It was quite something to have them both sparking off each other. They'd met briefly, Maggie reminded Shirley, about 40 years ago, backstage at the Oscars or something like that. And but they didn't know each other, and so seeing them meet at 7:45 one morning just before rehearsal started was like Stanley meeting Livingston. It was great to watch these two great icons of our business meeting properly for the first time, and they got on like a house on fire. And to be able to sit there during scenes while they were setting up the cameras and listening to them chatting away about, be it Larry Olivier when Maggie played Desdemona to his Othello, or Shirley talking about working with Jack Lemmon and Billy Wilder on The Apartment. It was just for an actor like me who sucks in that information and grew up on it. Grew up on watching these sorts of performances, which already by then were historical. To see the living legends chatting away merrily like it was the price of tea was just fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Downton Abbey Series 3, are you blown away by the reaction from the world for the series?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, no one sets out to make a bad show, but we strove to do our best in the first series, and were taken aback by quite how it was taken to the hearts of Britain. And you never really sort of think about whether it's going to travel. I think if you try and second-guess the audience's reaction to a show, you're sunk. I think you just got to be true to the piece that you're making. And so when it started rippling out across the world, first in America and Spain and Northern Europe, and then here and Australia, it's now even been on in China, and the reaction has been fairly uniform. A great acceptance of the show, and a love of the characters, a love of the stories. And what's been so interesting for us is the range of audience. You'd expect, as it were, a typical period drama type audience to embrace it, but we've had so many young people really get into it. A lot of teenagers are really into the fashions and into the romance of the characters, the Bates and Anna story, or Matthew and Mary, or Sybil and Branson. Isis the dog even has her own fan page apparently somewhere. So it's remarkable and gratifying, and makes us work all the harder on the next lot.
You were talking about the young people getting into it yesterday. You visited Palmerston North because there was a young Palmerston North girls high school pupil there that's a regular tweeter, and you surprised her, which is amazing.
That was really good fun actually, because I'd seen her tweets over the last 6 months or so. Occasionally, she'd write to some of us and say how much she loved the show and how nothing ever happens in Palmerston, and New Zealand's quite quiet really. No one ever comes to see us. So I thought, well, let's see if we can sort something out. And with Lisa and the people at Prime, we set it up with the headmistress, and they had a fake assembly, and we sprung it on them. And I did some load of hocus pocus, pretending I was a psychic, and managed to sort of got all the girls to stand up, and then gradually whittled them down through a series of questions, and then used my psychic powers to reveal an envelope with her name in it, and a photograph of 5 or 6 of us who were at the Emmys last week, and gave her the first copy of the new Downton Abbey book, that's the first one in New Zealand, and gave it to her. And it was great. It was a really lovely celebration of someone who's really keen on the show.
Wow. So Series 3 is done and dusted now. It's open to New Zealand soon. Will there be Series 4?
I'd be surprised if there wasn't, but you can never second-guess these things. It's doing extremely well in the UK. I personally feel it's the strongest series yet. I think there's now that the audience knows the characters so well, and they've been through the torment and the horrors of the First World War and the Spanish flu in the second series. The third series is really about Downton trying to get back to a sense of normality, which of course can't happen because life doesn't do that to you. Life doesn't stay the same. And I think Julian Fellows, who's our single writer on the show, he's the creator and executive producer on it, and it's his imagination that's fueling this whole thing. I think he's got plenty more fuel in the tank.
He's an amazing writer. If you just watch his shows and you put it all back to him, it's incredible, isn't it?
It is, and of course it's a world that he knows well. He won an Oscar for writing Gosford Park, The World of the Country House. And it was really Gareth Neame, who's our boss at Carnival Films, who said to him, why not revisit this world? And he said, well, I've sort of done that. He said, no, but what about the opportunity to develop characters over a long period of time, which, of course, more than just the 90 minutes of a movie. And that's what I think many writers around the world now are finding, that television gives writers that opportunity to really flex their muscles, spread their wings, etc. And I think we're in a golden age of good dramatic writing on television for series, and long may it continue.
Hugh, what else is on your agenda now? I mean, are you involved in other projects?
Yes, I'm going. I'm heading back to the UK on Sunday, and at the end of next week start filming a project called Mr. Stink. Mr. Stink is a book by David Walliams of Little Britain fame, and he's written 2 or 3 children's books which are really enchanting and funny and a bit rude and thought-provoking. And Mr. Stink is about a tramp who gets taken in by a girl at Christmas time. And he goes to live in her shed, and her parents her mum in particular tries to use Mr. Stink's homelessness as a political tool, and it's great. It's a wonderful story, and hence that's why I'm looking like a shaggy old dog.
Yeah, well, I wondered about the beard. That'll come off for Series 4 for Downton, I guess.
I think so, unless Downton really is on its uppers by then.
Wonderful to have you here, and thanks for visiting, Hugh.
Thank you very much for having me.